Hi third graders, it's weaving day, and so I'm going to show you now how to warp your loom. So you're going to need your paper plate that is all decorated. This is what mine looks like. Okay, you're going to need your bright green yarn that I sent home with you, and that's all you're going to need for now. You'll need a starter color in a few minutes, but we're going to have to get our loom warped first, and then we'll get started on our next part. All right, so grab your materials and let's get going. Okay, here we go with our circle loom weaving. Now, you have all warped your loom, you've prepped your loom, so you've colored it, you've decorated it. This is what mine ended up looking like. So I added crayon and some different designs after I painted mine. If you haven't done this yet, I want you to go do that. I want you to make sure you add, especially on the outside. We're going to be making our weaving that will end up covering a lot of the middle. So you're going to end up seeing a lot of the outside. So please make sure you've really decorated your loom and it's ready to go. Now, I cut this bright green for all of you to use. This is what I want you to use. It's cut for the right length so that we make sure we're able to use all of, actually to make sure we have enough to make sure our loom gets warped. The other pieces that I've given you are a little bit shorter and they're for weaving. Okay, so let's get started. You have 19 cuts on your loom. What I need you to do is I need you to find where your first cut is going to be, and I need you to count 11 cuts. Now, for some of you, it might be easier if you took a crayon and you marked those, but it would sort of be like your design, okay? So because I haven't used red, I'm going to take my mark. I'm going to go right here and mark this as being 1. I'm going to do it neater than that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this will be 11. All right, so I want to mark those two because that's where I'm going to start today. Now, boys and girls, on this one, I actually numbered them so that you can see what I'm doing. 1 and 11, and you can see on this one, I did 1 and 11. Okay, does everybody see those two? Great. So I'm going to be doing 2 at once so you can see what they look like on both of them. I'm going to save my bright green one to go on that one. I'm going to use a dark green for this. Okay, so the first thing that you're all going to need to do is to take the end of your yarn, which is called the waft, and you're going to want to stick it through the slit in number 1. Now your slit is going to be tight. It's going to be tight like this. Mine is a V because remember this is my template. So you're going to put it through the slit, and if you have a little piece of tape that you can grab that piece of tape and put it on there. That just keeps that from slipping, okay? So you're going to take 1. Now here's the trick. We're never wrapping. It's always going to stay on the front. So when our loom is warped, it will look like this. It's very similar to when we warp our squares like we did last year when we made our little mini rugs. You're always going to go on the back. The yarn never comes over the back. It's always on the front. All right, here we go. We're going to start at 1 and we're going to go to 11. Okay, 1, 11. I'm going to go next door to 10. I'm going to go to my right to 10, and I'm going to take my yarn across and it's going to go to 19. Do you see that that's to the left of number 1? So I went to the right on the bottom, to the left at the top. It's crisscrossing. See how it's made an X? Okay, I'm going to just slightly turn my plate. See 18? My yarn is going to come through hole 18, across, and go through 9, which is to the right. So what's going to happen is I'm always going to go to the left at the top and go to the right at the bottom. Let me show you what it will look like on your plate with your light green. So hopefully you're following along and you're understanding, and I'm going to keep going over it. Once you get it, it works, but it does take time. So I have number 1, and I'm going to number 11 because I marked it, right? I'm not going to pull too tight because my plate will bend. I want to go to the right at the bottom, crisscross to the left at the top. Remember, I'm going to go behind the door, through the hole. I'm going to go across to the right at the bottom, through the hole, to the left at the top, around. So that's what it's going to start looking like. Let me go over here to this one. From 9, I go next door to 8, go up, go across to the top, and I go left. Go across to the bottom, and I go right. Go across to the top, and I go left. Go across to the bottom, and I go right. Go across to the top, and I go left. And my yarn ran out because this one wasn't cut right. And I'm going to bring it all the way across to 3 to 2, and then I'm going to tie it in the middle, and I'll show you that on my other piece. Okay? So remember, when we get to the top, we go to the left, to the bottom, we go to the right. To the top, we go to the left. When we go to the bottom, we go to the right. And you see I'm just turning it every time I go. Top, we go to the left. That's my last hole at the top. Bottom, we go to the right. Now, you should have about this much left. Everybody's is the same length. So this is how much you should have left. What you're going to do when you get through this last hole is we're going to bring this all to the middle. So I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to make it towards my first starting point. You see where number 1 is? Between 1 and 2. There we go. So you're going to make it go between 1 and 2. That was my fault. You're going to bring it back out and we're going to tie it. Now, how do we tie it? We want to tie it to that one that it comes from. It's its mate. We're going to make a little hole with our finger. They're crisscrossing. Watch. I've got it here. I'm going to crisscross it. I'm going to tuck it under, and I'm going to pull that string so it's tight. Now I have my loom ready to weave. It's warped. See how that looks? Okay, let's try it one more time. For those of you who you got it right away, wonderful. Let's do this. I'm going to untie mine. I'm going to show it to you one more time. Remember, when you're at the top and you're weaving it, you're always going next door, okay, to the left. When you're at the bottom, you're always going to the right. And it has to crisscross every single time. So here I am at the beginning. I taped it. I went through my other marked. Remember, I marked these two, so they're ready to go. I went next door to the right, across up to the left. I go through that door, across. Boys and girls, I am never flipping my plate over. There will be no strings across the back. You'll only see these from when it's going across. Okay, and we're going to go through, and I told you before, 1 and 19, I was wrong. It's between 1 and 2. You're going to take that string, put it through 1 and 2, bring it back around, and you're going to tie it to itself. So do you see where that string is? Oops, right here. Goes between 1 and 2. I pull it back around, and I'm going to tie it there. I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to pull my string through that loop. I want to kind of hold it a little bit tight. And I'm going to pull it. And now I have a nice spot to start my weaving. Okay, now this is the easy part. This is the part you know really well. This is the over-under portion. Okay, oops, my camera does not like that position. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over, under, over, under, over, under. Okay, you're going to go ahead and use the end of that green piece just to get you started. Okay. Okay, so you're going to use that little bit of green piece just to get you started. And you're going to pick any spot and you're just going to pick over or under. It's up to you, and get going. So I'm going to start with over, under, over, under. See how I'm doing it way up here? Over, under, over, under, over, under. And then I'm going to pull it tight. All right? Over, under, over, under, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to get mine actually looking like something, okay? So I'm just making sure I go over, under, pulling it tight, and eventually, after I go around about 3 or 4 times, you're going to start being able to see weaving taking place. Now, what you will find is if you pull this, and if I have gone over 2 in a row, or they start to look the same, I'm going to be able to tell, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So I'm going over, under, all the way around it. Now, when I get to the point where my string line is too small, right? You can start to see the weaving taking place. When I get to the point where this is short, I want to go ahead and grab one of my other pieces of yarn. Now, I gave you rainbow, a lot of different rainbow colors, so you can do yours all at once. You can do them in pieces. If you have other yarn at home that you'd rather use instead, by all means, go ahead and use that. Okay, when I have about this much left, I'm going to line up my 2 pieces together. This is my new piece. This is my old piece. I'm going to line them up next to each other, okay? And I want to wrap it around my finger, push it through the hole together, and I'm going to tie it in a knot, all right? I can trim this now or I can trim it later. Later, we're just going to poke it down through so we don't see it anymore. So I'm now going to take my piece of yarn. I noticed that I ended going under. Once you start seeing my dark green on here, it's going to be easier for you to see my weaving. So I do want to weave enough that you can see my dark green. So it's going through. So you see how you can see that little knot right there? We're not going to want it there in a few minutes. There it is. So there he goes. He goes right underneath. So I'm going to continue going over, under, all the way around my loom. Now you have the ability to weave until you have completed your whole circle. I like to weave mine so it's about that big. So if I have it, it's about that big when I'm done. And then I can see the decoration I have on around the edges of my weaving. All right. See how that pattern is starting? Now, do you see those green pieces on top? They're a good hint to me that when I go around again the next time, I'm going to be able to tell if I'm doing it correctly. And here's what I mean. I'll show that to you right now. Now that I'm making my second loop around, I can tell if I've done this correctly because it's going to be opposite. So if I look up on this strand right here, I notice that the first dark green went under the light green. This one is going over the light green. That's showing me that I'm doing it correctly. I look at this one, under, this is over. This is over, so this one should be under. That way I can always check it as I'm doing my weaving, remembering we want to go over and under, all the way around our plate, all the way around our weaving. You can change your colors anytime you want to. You may only use some of the colors that I gave you, or you can use all of the colors that I gave you. It's entirely up to you and how you want to create this, okay? So get weaving. Let me see what you create. Okay, when you get your weaving as far as you want it to go, and I would make it go at about that big, you can do a couple things. You can see that if I've done it correctly and I push it together and do it tight, I should not be able to see my light green anymore when I'm doing my weaving, okay? If I see a light green, it could be possibly that I maybe have not either pulled it tight enough or I skipped one and made a mistake. You can untwirl it and you can go back to that if that's the case. Okay, I want to go ahead and show you now how to tie this off. All you're going to do is find where you're ending. So pretend it's right here. I'm going to end. I am just going to loop it around there. So do you see how I've looped it around? I just went over and under on the same piece. And now I'm just going to tuck my yarn through that hole, that loop that I just made, and I'm going to pull it. And that's going to go ahead and tie off that piece, and I can cut it and I can tuck it underneath my loom so that my weaving is done. This is a piece of art in itself. We're not going to take it off of the loom. We're going to leave it just like this because this is a whole presentation. That's how we would do it in the classroom. If you're feeling like you want to weave a circle piece, you can go ahead and do that just the same as we did with our rectangle pieces of cardboard. You can do with this one. So what you would do is you would weave all the way to the edge of your plate. You wouldn't even have to decorate a plate if you wanted to do a second one. Weave all the way to the edge of your plate, and then you would go behind and you would cut each of these and tie them just like you did with your rectangle looms that we did last year. And that would go ahead and tie them off and keep them from unraveling, and you would have a circle little cup holder, a cup rug, or a rug for your doll or your teddy bear, but it would end up as a circle. But this piece we're doing right now, I want it to stay this way. I want you to take a picture of it. I want you to send it to me through your email. You can email it to me at khillman@placeracademy.org. You can send it to me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send it to me in a text. All right, friends, I look forward to seeing what you've created. I hope you have fun with weaving. Be patient with yourself because it does take a little bit of time. All right, I'll look forward to doing more art with you. Have fun.